The chosen one. Those who stole from you will be burned in hell. You were never ordinary. You were never intended to be silenced, degraded, or dominated. Those who moved against you believed they were playing a game. I assumed they could take what was yours and go away undisturbed. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. The cosmos does not tolerate injustice. Fate does not forget when they planned, manipulated, or attempted to break you. They saw you as just another impediment, just another pawn in their hands. But you're not like the others. You were picked. Your path is safeguarded. Your energy is precious. And every effort to undermine you was never a step closer to triumph. It was a plan for their own doom. They believed they had won. They felt they had gotten away with it. But the fire is approaching. Now, one by one, they will learn what happens when you betray someone who was never supposed to fail. No force may break the delicate harmony of life without consequences. The universe's secret processes record every invisible activity with unfailing accuracy. No dishonesty or manipulation goes ignored. Those who think they can bend reality to their will, bending destiny to fulfill their wants, have already sealed their own doom. They misinterpreted stillness for absence, believing that since punishment did not strike immediately, it would never arrive. However, time does not erase transgressions. It accumulates them. And when someone dares to stand in the path of something that is meant to happen, they do more than just cross a person. They stand in opposition to something vastly larger than themselves. Their criticism does not come with thunder. It begins as an unnoticeable change, with possibilities sliding through their hands. Doors were originally open but are now bolted shut. Their once unwavering confidence starts to wane. Their ease of movement starts to fade. What was once easy becomes difficult. What was previously within grasp has drifted farther away. They regard their activities as unimportant. A tiny manipulation, a small lie, a silent kind of interference. They don't care about things so little. It was just a technique. A rival spreads misleading information in order to shift the scales in their favor. A confident person distorts reality, just enough to change the story. A spectator professing innocent but fueling murmurs intended to dim someone else's light. It was almost second nature until the weight of their own choices started to pile up on them, pushing from all sides like an invisible wave. The balance of existence will not accept corruption without repercussions. When they overstepped, something undetectable moved a breach in the unseen, causing a tremor through the fabric of their own construction. The forces they attempted to influence turned against them. No longer an obedient instrument, it was a storm they couldn't control. This was no ordinary offense. This was an effort to reinvent a trajectory that was never theirs to control. And in doing so, they left a lasting impression rather than a visible trademark. A weight that will not lift. The ink on the degree of balance has already dried. Nothing they do now will erase it. They revel in their seeming victory, mistaking stolen land for stable footing. They tell themselves that they have triumphed because their ingenuity has gained them an unbeatable position. Their grins are big. Their laughing is unforced. Their confidence is unshakable, at least on the surface. However, underlying it all, a subtle but persistent crack is spreading. They never get the fulfillment they anticipated. The pleasure of deceit wears off too fast. They were certain that triumph would offer them satisfaction. Instead, there is a knowing emptiness, a hollow stillness where joy should be. They reassure themselves that the pain is just momentary and will disappear. However, a murmur remains in the shadows of their minds, stating unequivocally that what they have was never intended to be theirs. You're here for a purpose. If you feel called, answer it. Click Join to get access to rare information, in-depth insights, and a strong community. This is not just a membership. It is an awakening. Step into your divine mission. Join the chosen. The weight of stolen earnings is never light. At first, it's an afterthought, a brief moment of uncertainty, an unshakable sense that something is missing. It develops slowly. The prizes they planned fail to provide the validation they desired and turn to dust. The instant they get it, rest does not come easy. Sleep is no more a safe haven, but rather a never-ending cycle of discomfort. And when their thoughts wander, they always return to the person they offended, the one who refused to break. the person who refuses to give up despite their best attempts. They observe from the shadows, waiting to find vulnerability. Instead, they observe resiliency. The realization sets in. Nothing was stolen from the person they attempted to undermine. They merely robbed themselves. The unwinding, however, begins with pain rather than catastrophe. A lingering uncertainty, a nagging reluctance, a slight alteration in the atmosphere around them. Something strange. Something is odd. The cosmos does not provide tranquility to those who disturb its equilibrium. The indications emerge as whispers. A squandered chance, a mistake. They cannot afford the unexplained feeling that their grip is weakening. They dismiss it as coincidence, an unlucky run of poor luck. But disaster does not distribute randomly. It follows a pattern, and eventually, the pattern becomes difficult to ignore. That formerly perfect execution starts to slip. Precision transforms into supervision. Their certainty in second-guessing the force they put in motion, assuming they could control it, has worked against them. What was once simple now falls in their hands. Their once powerful impact has faded. The adoration for others fades into disinterest. They are formerly devoted pals that disappear without explanation. The more they try to retrieve what they've lost, the quicker it slips through their fingers. They attempt to resist, rebuild, and recover their foothold. However, the weight pushes more heavily. The murmurs in the back of their minds get louder by the day. It is not just tiredness. It's not simply stress. It is something deeper and irrevocable. They have not only lost control, they have been unmade via their own design. Don't be fooled. God is not mocked. Whatever one sows, he will reap. Galatians 6-7. Consider a guy putting seeds in the ground, certain that he would be able to pick the harvest. He buries falsehood. What is it? With arrogance, he waits, certain that he will get power, success, and control. However, the land never lies, and the crop never forgets. What was planted in darkness will flourish in the light. And now the reaping has started. They believe they could manage the seasons, twisting the rules of cause and effect to their will. They mistook delay for escape, mistook quiet for absence. However, justice is not on their schedule. What? They failed to see that the forces at work were not pursuing them. They're consuming them completely. They cannot outrun this storm. They cannot fight their way out of this struggle. This is spiritual gravity. What they put in motion has now become the force that is pushing them down. They keep pressing ahead, anxious to recover control, sure that if they simply move quickly enough and sharpen their schemata, they would be able to break free. However, each move they take is greeted with opposition. Every scheme they devise fails before it can take root. The doors that formerly opened readily are now securely locked. The chances they previously took for granted have dried up like a well in the desert. They're grabbing at the air, attempting to cling on to something that is already sliding through their fingers. They believe they could play with fire without being burnt. They believe they could breach what was holy and never face the repercussions. They believe they could jump onto a route that was never theirs and rewrite the tale to their liking. But the ink was never in their possession. When they moved against you, the conclusion was already written. You're not here by chance. If you sense a tug, a deep feeling that you have been selected, now is your time. Click the super thank you button and contribute $1 or more to get deeper insights, unique information, and a path that fits with your divine destiny. This is not only a gift, it's a proclamation, a step toward being the person you were intended to be. Take the call. Walk with us and totally embrace your destiny. Your adventure starts now. And now, no matter how hard they struggle, how much they resist, or how loudly they scream, it is too late. Because this is not punishment. This is a return. This isn't an assault. This is the answer. What they sent out has returned. Not as a whisper or warning, but as a wave. There is no escape the tide. The unrest is not limited to their waking hours. When darkness falls, their minds become a war. The stillness that they once enjoyed now pushes upon them with intolerable force. They twist and turn, hoping to find repose. But the very air in the room seems off. Their heartbeats pound in their ears. Their skin is clammy. The blackness surrounding them seems dense and stifling. They tell themselves it is weariness, a restless night. There's nothing more. But when their eyes awaken at the same time every night, they realize it's not coincidental. The shadows in the corners of the room seem to change. The air seems to be electrified with an unknown force. Sounds that shouldn't exist enter their ears. Too mild to be distinct, yet too persistent to dismiss the reasons they seek. Slip between their fingertips. Logic cannot explain why the walls seem closer. Why does the quiet resonate with something nearly alive? Why does each breath seem as if it is greeted with something? Watching and waiting, they strive for assurance. However, certainty no longer exists. What was once solid now seems surreal. Their ideas betray them. Their viewpoint shifts. They had devoted so much effort to deceit. However, they are now the ones imprisoned in the delusion. What was previously within their power now slides away like sand. They chatted in whispers, and now rumors surround them. They derive their strength from the agony of others. They are now unable to stop the mysterious force that is unraveling them. No amount of begging would restore the comfort they previously took for granted. The phrase is already written, and there is no way out. It starts unexpectedly, with those who formerly orbited them but are now moving away. Conversations that used to flow naturally have devolved into stiff encounters. I feel stretched right now. The individuals they formerly captivated, manipulated, and controlled no longer react in the same manner. Friends who used to cling on every word are now keeping their distance. There is no major blowback or charges, just a gradual and steady departure. The warmth they once felt has turned to indifference. Admiration turns into alienation. They strive to rekindle the ties in order to get individuals back and using the same strategies that formerly worked flawlessly. But nothing ignites. The energy they once exerted over others is vanished. And for the first time, they understand they are no longer looked up to or feared, but rather tolerated. And even that is slipping. Their foot will slip in due time. Deuteronomy, imagine a guy building his home on sinking sand. From the outside, it seems robust and tall, decked with riches and power. He stands at the top, staring down, confident that he has outsmarted the earth beneath him. However, the basis was never firm. The deeper the roots of falsehood, the more fragile the earth. And now fissures have developed under his feet, expanding unnoticed, waiting for the weight of his own decisions to drag him down. At first, he doesn't notice. He still walks confidently, as if nothing can hurt him. He feels his plans are solid and his position unshakable. However, the building gradually starts to deteriorate. What formerly came naturally now slips through his fingers. He looks for another promotion, opportunity, or fast fix. But nothing holds. The cleverness that once exalted him is now working against him. The same shortcuts he used have now become barriers. People who used to blindly follow him are now hesitant. Their faith had gone threadbare. They see what he refuses to see. They feel what he is ignoring. His name no longer bears any weight. It conveys distrust. His authority no longer compels respect. It raises doubt. The doors he used to stroll through with ease are now locked. The allies who previously covered for him are no longer returning his calls. His confidence, which was previously his greatest weapon, has now turned against him. Despite this, he continues to reassure himself that it is just temporary. Still believes that this is simply an unfortunate season. A test. A tough patch. He will persevere. But this isn't simply a difficult patch. This represents the soil rejecting the seed. This is the ground that refuses to support the weight of what was constructed on falsehood. The foundations he previously relied on were never strong enough to survive. And now, like sand sliding between his fingertips, everything he's constructed is falling around him. He doesn't see it yet, but the minute he felt he'd recovered control, he lost everything. Every time he attempts to rebuild, another fault line fractures under him. The same merciless desire that once propelled him forward now leaves him alone. The same strategies that had propelled him forward now hold him back. And no matter how hard he resists, plots, or tries to force his way back, he can't stop what's already started. This is not misfortune. This is not terrible luck. This is the weight of justice. Pressing down on the balance, it restores itself. The same system he used to ascend is now throwing him out the same doors he smashed shut before. Others' faces are closing in on him. The isolation he imposed on another has now become his own. And the worst part? It is not over. The decline has barely just started. The decline is not merely professional. It affects every part of their lives. What previously looked invincible now seems fragile. The security they flaunted starts to vanish, and the neatly controlled existence becomes filled with flaws. At first, it's simply little inconveniences, a late payment, an unforeseen bill, or a contract that falls through at the last minute. Then the setbacks increase. Financial stability crumbles before their eyes. The money they previously readily directed is now draining quicker than they can hold it. Every effort to recover control merely exacerbates the loss. The tighter their grasp, the more resources they lose. They want stability, yet it eludes them, always just out of grasp. The system that previously served them so well now works against them. And no matter how they plan, the losses continue. A feeling of cosmic imbalance starts to emerge, a list of wrongs that refuses to be resolved via simple happenstance. Their misfortunes, which are disregarded as occasional incidents or bad turns, are really the result of a severe breakdown of trust. They plundered more than just tangible riches. They seized the essence of potential, the goodwill that transcends price. Now, every financial hiccup, an unexpected expenditure, or a series of inevitable failures reverberates like an overdue bill coming due. They persevere in their frantic efforts to patch up a broken system, arguing that these are just transitory failures. However, behind the surface, an insidious awareness develops. The cost of their transgressions is increasing, leaving them unable to maintain even the pretense of stability. However, if you do not do the correct thing, sin is waiting for you. It wants to have you, but you must govern over it. Genesis 4.7. Imagine a guy traveling along a familiar street. The route was known, the twists predictable, and the goal guaranteed. He strolled effortlessly, sure in his steps, never asking where the route would lead him. But one day, something shifts. The once straight road starts to curve, and markers that let him fade into the mist. The more he attempts to walk ahead, the more disoriented he gets. And suddenly it struck him. This is no longer the route he knew. That is what occurs when the mind turns against itself. When lying, manipulation, and betrayal are the foundations of a person's decisions, their own thoughts become a battleground. At first, they don't notice. They persuade themselves they still have control. They blame setbacks on poor luck, failures on other forces, and the disintegration of their lives on everyone but themselves. They tell themselves that if they simply keep striving and strive harder, they will be able to return to their former life. However, the route no longer goes to the expected destination. They glance around and see that the individuals they formerly relied on are vanished. The connections they once took for granted have disintegrated. The trust they felt was unshakable has been broken. They reach out, looking for a familiar hand to help them get back up. But no one is present. They burnt bridges one by one, until they were all ash. They begin to feel it. Then the weight presses down. The knowing uncertainty creeps in. Every choice came easily. They are now feeling hesitant. Every step forward is accompanied with uncertainty. They question their decisions and distrust their senses. Even the most basic behaviors may be second-guessed. Their own mind becomes a prism, a labyrinth without an obvious exit. This was not an accident. This is not a coincidence. This is the outcome of the moment. They turned away from the truth. They have never forgotten the treachery they believed they had put behind them. It follows them and hovers in their shadow. They whisper in the quiet times when they are alone. And now, no matter how hard they try or how much they look for someone else to blame, they can't get away from it because the adversary they most dread is no longer outside of them. It's inside them. The turmoil they caused is now their reality, and the reckoning has only just started. Their assurance has vanished, leaving only worry in its place. Their once impenetrable confidence has cracked, leaving them exposed to the identical worries they disregarded in others. Control was their currency, but they are now bankrupt, clinging to ghosts of power that no longer exist. They had persuaded themselves that they could rewrite history, undo what had been done, and go on uninjured. But suddenly the harsh, unavoidable reality is revealed. They are not escaping destiny. They're unraveling below it. They see what they refused to admit before when they stumble through tragedy. You soar without effort, but their route becomes steeper. Yours flows easily. They had laughed at your struggles, rejected your agony as weakness, and enjoyed in the devastation they caused. However, they are now the ones yearning for clarification. They once denied you the tranquility they took and cannot restore. Desperation always brings them back. When everything else fails, they return with practiced ease, as if you had no history together. A note, a casual comment, or a generic check-in. It is never real. They don't ask forgiveness. They're looking for a getaway. They believe that your recognition would calm the storm that plagues them, that your presence will lighten the burden they can no longer bear. But what they don't realize is that their salvation is not in your control. What they put in motion goes beyond any apologies or last-ditch efforts to alter their fate. They misinterpreted your grace for weakness, thinking they could maneuver their way to a different conclusion. However, once written, it cannot be undone, for they sowed the wind, and they will reap the storm. Hey, Hosier, imagine a guy standing in an open field, tossing seeds into the breeze. Never pauses to consider what he is sowing. He sows falsehood, waters it with hubris, and watches it take root for a while. Nothing occurs. The field is calm and seems to have remained undisturbed. He believes he has evaded the consequences and may go unharmed. However, the storm is already gathering on the horizon. The whirlwind is approaching, and when it comes, it will not seek permission. It will not negotiate. It'll take everything. They spent their days manipulating destiny to their will, distorting reality to suit their purposes. They based their universe on deception, well-crafted falsehoods, and merciless ambition. For a time, it worked. They fooled themselves that they were untouchable. Their schemes would never fail, that they may continue to manipulate results indefinitely. But they failed to see that the forces that rule the planet are not blind. The foundation they constructed was never sturdy. The ground was crumbling underneath them the whole time. The verdict has been given. The forces of balance have spoken, and there will be no appeals, second hearings, or last-minute deals. This is no longer in human hands. This is not about apologizing, not about regret. This is not about frantic efforts to change the history. The ink has dried. The door is closed. The phrase has already started. At first, they believe the worst-case scenario is losing you, losing access to your energy, presence, and forgiveness. But what they don't realize or cannot yet appreciate is that the true penalty is significantly worse, since they have not just lost you. They've lost themselves. The person they used to be, with their confidence, power, and easy control over their surroundings, is no longer there. The guy who stood at the top, demanding attention and winning triumph after victory, is no longer alive. He has been hollowed out, stripped down, and allowed to roam a world of his own creation. His once proud qualities, such as sharpness, wit, and influence, have wilted. No matter what he does or how hard he tries to recover his footing, he will never be the person he was before he put this tragedy in motion. And now the weight of his own acts is pressing down with unwavering power. He cannot shift the load to another person. He cannot purchase his way out of this situation, talk his way out, or maneuver his way through. It is a death that cannot be resolved, a price that cannot be negotiated. He will look for a way back. He'll attempt to claw his way out. He will spend restless nights retracing his movements, attempting to pinpoint the exact moment when everything started to crumble. However, there is no redoing what has been done. No matter how quickly he runs or how far he tries to escape, he will never be able to outrun the consequences of his actions. The whirlwind has come, and it will not depart until it has received its due. Each day seems heavier, as if something unseen is crushing down with calm inevitability. The power and influence they once had have long ago gone away, leaving only an empty place where certainty previously was. They felt they had choreographed their success, that they had altered the script to their advantage. They failed to see, however, that the decision had already been set at the time they intervened. Every fraud, treachery, every act of sabotage was never a path to power. It was the basis for their own demise. There was no need for retribution, counterattacks, or anything else, since the power they attempted to influence was never within their control in the first place. They are now on the verge of self-destruction. Trapped in the devastation they produced, you stay unaffected, undisturbed, and unfettered by the havoc they unleashed. This is not a chance. This is not arbitrary. This is the everlasting accuracy of balance, restoring itself. The unavoidable rebalancing of a scale tipped by greed, jealousy, and irresponsible meddling. Those who are in alignment cannot be overthrown. Those who walk in truth will not fall. Have you seen this yet? Have the very hands that previously wanted to pull you down come to shake with the weight of their own decisions?